Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett went to war last Saturday night in what can only be described as the best fight of 2026. At least so far. We'll see in 11 months if that actually holds up as the best fight of the year. I'm sure it's going to be a solid contender. What a fight. What a war. What an absolute slugfest. I said in my prediction video that I had a weird, sneaky suspicion that this fight was going to be incredibly close, and it turned out to be that. I'm so excited. That was an awesome fight to watch, and the whole fight card was amazing, actually. I always say that you should never judge a pay-per-view card until it happens. Sometimes the card looks rather weak on paper, like it did with this card. You had a championship fight fallout between Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes, and then, of course, the week of the fight. I covered these fights in my prediction video, but they fell out the week of the fight. Ricky Turquoise versus Cameron Smotherman and Michael Johnson and Alex Hernandez didn't end up happening, but the card showed out. It was an awesome card. We started out the year with 3 first-round KOs. So many great fights to talk about today. As always, I'll go through absolutely every single one of them, so if you guys want to skip around, there will be timestamps down below in the description. And yeah, if you guys like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends to help boost this channel and the algorithm. And with that all out of the way, let's get into the breakdown. Kicking us off with the first fight of the night, we had a welterweight bout between Adam Fugit and Ty Miller, and this fight was incredibly fun while it lasted. Both men went in there and just threw caution to the wind. They were throwing leather, and it was a lot of fun until Ty Miller got that TKO kind of towards the end of the first round there, and this kid's very special. He's now 7-0. He's 25 years old, very young, hot prospect at welterweight. I can't wait to see what he does next in this division. I don't think he deserves a ranked opponent yet or anything like that. We can't rush him that quickly, but this is a very hot prospect that I want to see big things from in 2026. So hopefully he stays active. He kicked off the year with a bang, first round knockout, impressive victory. Moving on from that, we had a heavyweight bout, this kind of being our early prelims headliner, between Josh Hotick and Denzel Friedman. And this fight was completely one-sided. It says here on the fighting stats that Friedman actually landed 0 total strikes and only threw 8. Josh Hotick, on the other hand, 71 strikes landed, 37 significant strikes. He got a takedown in there as well, and he just overwhelmed Friedman. This was just all volume for one side, and the other side had no answer for it at all. And this Friedman guy has a crazy gas tank for a heavyweight. This guy has so much output and volume when he fights, and he maintains that. He did not look like he was going to get gassed. He looked fresh at the end of the first round, and then, of course, he cuts the WWE promo, throws the shades on, says some... iffy things there on the mic, but I thought it was hilarious. I love guys who have character like that, guys who call their shots, guys who make things, interesting for the fans, and I hope he gets a big fight in his next fight. That was a fantastic performance by him. I'm really excited to see what he does at the heavyweight division. He looks to be a cardio machine at a division where there's not many guys like that, so we'll see if he can shake up that division in 2026. Let's move on now to the regular prelims. Kicking off our regular prelims, we had a flyweight bout between Alex Perez and Charles Johnson, and this was one fight going into it that I picked the underdog to win it. I said Alex Perez is a live underdog in this one. He is a crafty veteran. He's been in there with the best names in this weight class, and I feel like as good as Charles Johnson is, as much power as that guy has at flyweight, I feel like he's going to run into a bit of trouble in this one. I predicted this one to go the distance. I thought at flyweight there's just not enough power to see knockouts, but we're seeing more and more and more knockouts at flyweight every single year, so I should probably dial back that prejudice, I guess. Alex Perez goes in there, gets a first-round knockout. Fantastic performance by him. You love to see it from the veteran. I hope he gets a big fight in 2026 as well. Just a fantastic performance, shutting down a big prospect, a guy that a lot of people have their eyes on as maybe a dark horse in the division, and the old wily vet gets it done. So impressive to see there. Moving on, we had a light heavyweight bout between Nikita Krylov and I butchered this name so bad in my prediction video, so if I do it again, I apologize, my Lithuanian fans, but Modestas Bukauskas went in there and did the best he could, but he got outstruck. Krylov landed 94 total strikes to Bukauskas' 43. He got a knockdown, he got a takedown, and eventually, in the third round, he finally got the knockout. It's a big win for Krylov. I said going into this fight that I really want to see him bounce back and get a big win here. I think I called this as a second round knockout. It ended up happening in the third, so I wasn't too far off. And yeah, I hope to see big things from him in 2026 as well, because this guy is one of the most fun fighters on the roster. Whether or not he's going to win a title in the future or not, that's kind of out the window. I don't care about that. But when this guy gets in there, he's either going to get knocked out in the first round or he's going to knock you out in the first round or find some way to finish you in the first round. Krylov is a first round finishing fighter, and those are the most entertaining fighters to watch. So I hope we get more big things from him in 2026. And moving on, we had a middleweight bout. The one fight that I said was absolutely not going to make it out of the first round. I feel like a lot of people said that. I'm not alone in that opinion. But GAETHJE taking on Andrei Pulayev was a much closer fight than I had anticipated. I thought GAETHJE was going to go in there, throw those big, heavy hands that he has, and find the knockout in the first round. But that's not what happened. Pulayev kept him at the end of his punches, used his reach, used his distance, and fought a very strategical fight and almost pulled up an upset. This fight was very close. Even though GAETHJE did get the better of it, I do think the judges made the right decision in giving him the call. He was landing the bigger punches. All of the shots that he landed were much more consequential than what Pulayev was landing, but I thought that this was a very good fight for GAETHJE to kind of go the distance, to realize that he's going to meet guys in this division that can take him that far, and not everything's going to be a first-round knockout for him. This kid's incredibly talented. I said in my prediction video that he looks like a polished Ngannou already. He's only 23 years old. I don't even know if I mentioned that last video, but this kid's incredibly young. He's got so much future ahead of him. He's got lots to learn, and he's got all the attributes that you want. He's got crazy power, like 99, if not 100, on the stat bar power. He's got fantastic calmness and just presence in there. He's very cool under pressure. He doesn't rush things. He takes his time. He finds the right shots. And all of that stuff is very hard to acquire. Usually fighters acquire that knowledge when they're in their early 30s, maybe late 20s. They start to, get smart to that stuff, and they start to slow things down and be a little bit more strategic in how they approach fights. You would think from a 23-year-old with this much power that this guy would be going in there and fighting like young Francis Ngannou did, but he doesn't. He fights very smart, and he's very wise for his age. So I think we're going to see big things from him in this year, in 2026, and in the future, of course. This guy's going to be around for a long time, but I don't think this was a fraud check. The guy is 23 years old. He took on a very crafty striker, a very tough opponent in Pulayev, and he came out with the victory. So shout out to him. I was expecting that to be a first-round knockout, but I'm glad he got the win. I hope we see big things from him in 2026. And moving on to our prelim headliner, we had the fight that I was probably anticipating most on this fight card. It wasn't nearly as close as I thought the fight was going to be, and it's, of course, the bantamweight bout between Umar Nurmagomedov and Deiveson Figueiredo. I thought this was going to be a back-and-forth fight. I was sad to see that this was only 3 rounds. I thought this should be a fight night headliner and be 5 rounds, because both of these guys can definitely go 5 rounds. But it was a fun fight for while it lasted. It wasn't the most entertaining fight on the whole card. It did seem a little bit like Deiveson Figueiredo was getting a little, maybe not starstruck is the right word, but he was getting overwhelmed in there, and he was kind of backing off. He wasn't pressing forward. He wasn't putting his foot on the gas like he normally did. And I can see why Umar thought that this guy was running away from him in the fight. Of course he wasn't. He was fighting. He did make it a fairly fun fight. But like I said in the prediction video, if Deiveson Figueiredo can't get past that kickboxing of Umar Nurmagomedov, it's going to be a very long night for him, and that's exactly what played out. Umar kept him at the end of his kicks and at the end of his punches, and he just outstruck him the entire night. And then I also said that if he wanted to, he can take Deiveson Figueiredo down at will at any point in time in the fight. And he did that as well. He kind of took him down very easily, put him on his back, controlled him a little bit. Obviously, it's hard to hold down a guy like Figueiredo for 5 minutes, but I thought Umar just did a fantastic job in this fight. I thought the commentary team was being a little bit rude in saying that he needs to get a finish in this fight. He needs to put an explanation point on his victory so that he actually gets the next title shot. But I think when you're taking on a former champion, a guy who's ranked as highly as Deiveson Figueiredo is, a guy who's as talented as he is, one of the greatest flyweight fighters of all time, I think just beating him this decisively in a decision is enough to say, like, look, this is a very impressive performance. Who else has done that to Figueiredo? I think this was a more dominant performance over Figgy than the Yan fight was, for example. So I think this earns him a title shot. Like I said, my most coveted fight in 2026 is to see Umar Nurmagomedov take on Petr Yan. So that's the fight I want to see next. I don't know if it'll get booked. I'm sure O'Malley or Murrah probably have more chips and probably have better bargaining with the UFC right now, but I hope we get to see Nurmagomedov versus Yan at some point in 2026. So that concludes the prelims. Let's move on now to the main card. And kicking off our main card, we had a featherweight bout, which was my second most anticipated fight of the entire night, and it lived up to the hype. Much more than the Umar Nurmagomedov-Deividson Figueiredo fight did, in my opinion. This was between Arnold Allen and Jean Silva, and it was a back-and-forth war. Not quite the war that we saw in the main event, but this was a very fun fight, and it was very close all throughout. The total strikes at the end of the fight were 60 out of 121 thrown for Allen, and 78 out of 141 thrown for Silva. Silva also had 4 out of 6 takedowns in that fight. He was striking at nearly a 55% rate, which was much higher than Allen's, who was coming under 50%, so that's very impressive from Silva. It's one thing to note, this guy's incredibly accurate when he's in there. And the significant strikes, 74 for Silva to 56 for Allen. So Allen did do a good job of making most of his strikes significant, but Jean Silva was landing the bigger punches. And I said this in my prediction video, that I was going to side with Jean Silva because he's the one who goes in there and throws flying knees, throws spinning elbows. I don't know how many spinning elbows he threw in that fight. I don't think he landed any of them, but that's the type of stuff that this guy goes for. He goes for wheel kicks. He goes for head kicks. He's constantly trying to knock his opponent out with the most vicious techniques he knows. And Arnold Allen, on the other hand, a little bit more of a clean striker, a little bit more keep that jab in your face, box you up, wear you down. If this was a 5-round fight, maybe it could have gone a different route, but I feel like Jean Silva was picking up momentum as the fight went on. He was landing bigger and bigger shots, gaining more confidence, and getting more comfortable in the pocket, which is not what you want when you're fighting Jean Silva. That guy is scary in the pocket. So yeah, big win for Jean Silva. I'm super excited for him to get a big win here at the start of 2026. I hope this lines him up for a big fight at the featherweight division. Hopefully in just a couple months. This guy tends to like to stay active, so I hope he gets a big fight soon. And yeah, just one of the most entertaining fighters in the entire sport. Barking at his opponents, crying after he beats them. What a character. I love Jean Silva. Moving on, we had a women's flyweight bout that I told you guys not to miss. I told you guys, make sure you don't skip this fight. This is going to be a very, very entertaining fight. And it was for a round. The third round was entertaining. The third round is when Natalia Silva picked it up and started to fight like Natalia Silva does. Constant volume, constant movement, so much momentum in that third round. I really think that she won that round, possibly as clearly as a 10-8, but I feel like you have to give her a 10-9. There was no knockdowns. There was no takedowns in that round, so I feel like, or maybe she got a takedown in the third, I can't remember, but I feel like Natalia Silva clearly won that third round. But the first 2 rounds against Rose Namajunas were very close. I think the first round was, you could call it either way, but I would honestly give it to Rose. Second round, I have to give to Rose. Third round was the most dominant round, and you have to give it to Silva. So it made for this weird fight where Silva was winning at the end. She had the most dominant round, and it was in the third round. And I'm glad she got the nod. I'm glad they gave her the fight, but I understand why fans were booing, because if you were judging this fight as the UFC is supposed to, 10-point must system, scoring each round individually, Rose should have won this fight. I feel like she got robbed a little bit because she did win 2 rounds, in my opinion. But in my opinion, Natalia Silva won the fight. I don't know if that makes any sense, but this is why I don't like the 10-point must system. I feel like if there is a round that's incredibly close, like the first round, you should give both fighters a 10 or both fighters a 9. And I also don't like scoring the fight round by round anyways. I feel like you should score the fight as a whole, or at least, maybe this is crazy, maybe fight fans disagree with me on this, but boxing and UFC are kind of the only sports, or MMA I should say, are kind of the only sports where you don't see the score up on a scoreboard while the players are playing the game, right? I know it's not a game, they're fighting, but I almost wish that they would put the judges' scorecards up as they were posted. Like the first round ends, the judges' scorecards go up on a big scoreboard, and then the fighters can kind of see where they're at in the fight. I feel like it would make fighters fight a little bit harder. Maybe it would make people coast if they would see like, oh, I've won 4 rounds, I'm just going to coast in the 5th round. I don't know. That's probably a horrible idea to do, but I just feel like we have to fix the scoring a little bit, because fights like this, I don't know how to call them. And I feel like it's because the scoring system itself is a little bit flawed. I would judge the fight as a whole if I could. I know Joe Rogan agrees with me on that. A lot of people do. I feel like it's the way to go, but yeah, this was just a weird fight. I'm glad Silva won. It's better for the division. I really want to see her fight Shevchenko. You watch her hips, watch her knees, watch her feet throughout that entire fight. They're constantly jittering. They're constantly making, little little feints, little tells, trying to throw the opponent off their game. That is so cool to watch. It's almost like she's dancing in there. I'm surprised that it took a woman's fighter. A female fighter has figured this out, and no other men really have. I haven't seen a male fighter have the leg twitchiness that Natalia Silva has, and I feel like more male fighters should pick up on that. I know it uses a lot of energy. Maybe you don't have the gas tank that Natalia Silva has, but if ever that's an excuse for you for not doing a certain technique or not implementing something in your fighting game, I would just say get better cardio. Because look at guys like Marab, look at guys like GSP. GSP in particular does so many extra things when he's in there and while he's fighting, so many techniques that he doesn't have to do, but he implements them to make his game more diverse and dynamic. And all that he did was up his cardio in order to be able to implement those. So I feel like a lot of male fighters should probably look at Natalia Silva and go, look what she's doing with her legs, with her feet, constantly feinting in like 3 different ways with the feet, the knees, and the hips. I feel like more people should pick up on that because it's very effective. It just keeps the other fighter's computer overloaded the entire fight. They don't know what's coming at them. They don't know what's happening. And I thought she just did a brilliant job in that 3rd round, and I don't know where that was the rest of the fight. When she's fighting like she does in the 3rd round, she has the game to possibly beat Valentina Shevchenko, who, like you guys know, is my favorite female fighter of all time, maybe my favorite fighter of all time. She's very high up there for me. I love Shevchenko to death, but this is a type of girl that could beat her if she fights like she did in that 3rd round for all of the rounds in her next fight. So let's hope she bounces back after that. I hope they give Rose a big fight as well because she deserves it. I thought that she probably won this fight, but yeah, weird fight to call, just like our co-main event, but we'll get to that one in a second. We still have one more fight to talk about before we get to the co-main, and that's the heavyweight bout between Waldo Cortez Acosta and Derek Lewis. This one was so one-sided, my God. I did not think that this was going to be such a one-sided fight, but Derek Lewis landed 8 total strikes in this fight. He threw 43 and at a 18% landing rate only landed 8 strikes in this fight. Waldo Cortez Acosta, on the other hand, landed 46 strikes out of 64. This guy was landing at over a 70% rate in this fight. That's insane. That's crazy accuracy, especially for a heavyweight. He landed a takedown in this fight. He dominated Derek Lewis everywhere the fight went. Derek Lewis, he had nothing for him in this fight. He was literally outgunned in every single department. And I think this Waldo Cortez Acosta guy could be the dark horse in this division. I know people were already saying that about him, but I think with this Derek Lewis win, this might be the guy to beat Gane and Aspinall maybe. We'll see. We'll see how 2026 plays out, but I'm keeping my eyes on this guy as the guy who might be able to turn things over and flip the script by the end of the year. Maybe he'll be champion in 2027. We'll see. But this guy's incredibly talented. He's got a great fight IQ. That's one thing that I learned from this fight in particular. Before this fight, I thought this guy was a smart fighter. I thought that he had a lot of skills. But in this fight against Derek Lewis, I really got to see just how high this guy's fighting IQ is and just how much he can control and dominate a fight. Very, very impressive performance by Waldo Cortez Acosta in this one. Moving on, we had our co-main event, which was a bantamweight bout between Sean O'Malley and Song Yadong. Going into this one, I really wanted Song Yadong to win because I thought it was better for the division. A new, fresh face. He's 3 years younger than Sean O'Malley. I feel like he could pose a better challenge and a better threat to Merab, Petr Yan, and some of the other top fighters in this division. This is another weird fight because I thought Song Yadong won the first round. It was incredibly close. Again, you probably should call it 10-10 or 9-9 and just score it evenly for both fighters. There was really nothing that put one fighter over the other in the first round. The second round was a little bit more, I would score it for Song Yadong, but it was, again, a very close round. And then the third round, Sean O'Malley comes out of his shell, starts popping him with the punches, gets comfortable, and when Sean O'Malley's comfortable, that's when he's fighting his best. And he won that third round, and it was the most dominant round, just like the Rose Namajunas Natalia Silva fight. So what do? Do you call the first 2 rounds for Song Yadong and give him the fight, or do you give the fight to the guy who had the most dominant round in the last round of the fight and ended the fight on top? Traditionally, I would say that's who wins the fight. Whoever's winning the fight at the end of the fight, that's how it works in the schoolyard. Whoever's the kid on top landing the punches when the teachers pull them apart, that's the kid who won. So Traditionally, that's how I like to think of fights, but in the UFC, if we're going by the UFC rules, Song Yadong should have won this fight, in my opinion. He did outland Sean O'Malley, 69 strikes to 67, so only 2 strikes more, but still, he outlanded him. I know Sean O'Malley had more significant strikes, but then there was also the takedown. Song Yadong landed 3 takedowns, and I feel like that should score into it as well. I know he didn't do the most with them, but he still got them, and I feel like that's important to take note of. So I don't know how I would score this fight, even in retrospect. I kind of flip-flop on it. You guys can let me know down below in the comments. Did you guys have this for Song Yadong, or did you score for Sean O'Malley? It's another one that's kind of tricky to call. Again, I feel like the UFC needs to fix their scoring system and how they judge fights, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. Dana seems to be pretty stubborn when it comes to that and sticking with the 10-point must boxing ways of the past, but I feel like it's time for a change and an update. But good for Sean O'Malley. I don't know where he goes from here. He can't really fight Merab again. He's been beaten by him twice pretty decisively. I feel like the first fight with Jan got robbed in, so maybe we get that rematch so Jan can get that fight back, but I feel like Jan just absolutely decimates him in the rematch because Jan is such a better fighter than he was in that first fight with O'Malley. He keeps getting better and better to everyone's surprise because you're like, how can Jan get any better? And then he goes out there and has that performance against Merab just like a month or 2 ago, and it was one of the greatest performances in UFC history. So this guy just keeps getting better. And then Sean O'Malley, on the other hand, I don't think that he's improved that much. Like, he lost 2 rounds to Song Yadong, in my opinion. I feel like this guy hasn't improved much over the last 4 or 5 years. I just feel like he's the same fighter. So I feel like Jan goes out there and decimates him, and that's just kind of a waste of a fight. I'd rather see Umar fight him. That's more of a challenge. That's more of a close fight, in my opinion. So I would like to see Sean O'Malley take on Corey Sandhagen, the 2 5'11" fighters at 135 facing off against each other. They're both crafty strikers. I really don't know which way that fight would go. I've wanted that fight for years now. They're both long, lanky guys. The one has a better fight IQ. The other one has more power and pop and natural ability. So we'll see if that fight gets made in 2026. I really hope it does, but that's what I want to see from the Bantam division now. I know people are saying it should probably be Sean O'Malley fighting for the belt next over Umar, but I don't know. I feel like Umar beat a tougher guy, and he did it more decisively. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out in 2026. But moving on, let's talk about the absolute war that we saw in the main event between Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett for the lightweight interim title. Apparently, Ilia Topuria is going through some maybe divorce problems. I don't know what's going on. Like I said, I don't follow too many things outside of the UFC, but it seems like this guy's got some troubles going on in his life, so maybe he won't be fighting for a belt in 2026, or maybe he'll be later in the year. I guess that's why they made this an interim belt, but we'll see. We'll talk about the aftermath after we talk about this fight, because this fight was wild. I said in my prediction video, and this wasn't the hardest thing to call. I'm not saying I'm a genius or anything, but I did say in my predictions that I had a weird feeling that this was going to be a war, because both guys are very evenly matched. Even though Paddy Pimblett has superior grappling, it's not like way superior. It's not a huge gap. Justin Gaethje still has amazing wrestling. And you know what? The ground game didn't even factor in this fight at all. I thought it would. I thought Paddy Pimblett would shoot for some sort of takedown, maybe, spring it on the legs or something like that, but the ground game didn't play a factor at all. And then with the striking, I said in my prediction video, Justin Gaethje does have better striking, but we can't overlook Paddy Pimblett. Even though I don't like this guy has really good striking. He's not super elite. He's not Edson Barboza or anything like that, but this guy's a really good striker. He's got a lot of power in his hands. He's very calm, very confident, and he showed that in this fight. And boy, does he have a chin. I knew he had a chin. All that Scousers don't get knocked out stuff, but I didn't know it was that good. That's a hell of a chin, and he's got a big skull, so I guess it shouldn't surprise me too much, but 2 knockdowns for Justin Gaethje. I feel like there was more than that, but I guess there was 2 official ones. He landed 200 total strikes in this fight, threw over 300. Paddy Pimblett landed 170 strikes in this fight and threw 326. That's so many. Significant strikes were 144 to 156 for Paddy Pimblett, so Paddy Pimblett actually had more significant strikes landed in this fight. And the takedowns were 3 out of 3 for Gaethje and 0 out of 5 for Paddy Pimblett. So there were some takedowns in there. Justin Gaethje did utilize his wrestling a little bit, but they didn't really play a factor into the fight all that much. It was mostly a stand-up war, and this thing was back and forth. I don't know how I would call each round. I feel like Paddy Pimblett won one of the rounds at least, possibly 2 of them. You could maybe give him the 5th round, but the 5th round was so damn close. I know Justin Gaethje won at least 3 of the rounds, possibly 4. Maybe even you could score 5 rounds for Justin Gaethje. I don't know if you guys scored it that way, but it was a damn close fight. I felt like at some points in time, it felt like Justin Gaethje was bullying Paddy Pimblett, like he was knocking him down with every punch that he threw, like every punch that Justin Gaethje landed was affecting Paddy and breaking his face and making it look worse and bloodying him up. And then everything that Paddy threw back the other way was landing and landing well, but not really doing the same amount of damage. So at some points in this fight, it felt like a little one-sided, like Justin Gaethje was bullying Paddy Pimblett and ready to knock him out, but he couldn't find the knockout throughout the fight. They kept standing back up and they kept going back at it. It was rock'em sock'em robots the entire fight, and it was so damn entertaining. Paddy Pimblett showed an incredible amount of heart, just fighting back, constantly getting back up, putting his chin on the line and just going back out there. You would think that some fighters might start to play it a little bit safe when they're getting beat up that bad, when they're taking that many shots, but Paddy Pimblett didn't care. He kept walking forward. He kept trying to chase a knockout, trying to wear this guy down, trying to get a finish of his own. And it's fights like that that really cement fighters in our mind and make us respect them. And this was one fight that really makes me respect Paddy Pimblett a lot more. I said in my predictions that I don't like this guy. This is a guy that as soon as he came into the UFC, his personality rubbed me the wrong way, and I find him incredibly annoying, very cringe. I don't like the guy personally, but when I watch him fight, I have so much respect for him. There's very few fighters actually in the sport that I have more respect for than Paddy Pimblett for how he fought last night. I haven't seen many performances like that. I remember Rory McDonald getting beaten up by Robbie Lawler in their famous fight and having so much respect for Rory after that fight, for both guys really, but for Rory and how he fought that fight in defeat. And this is just the same thing with Paddy Pimblett. My respect for him is just unmatched. There's very few people that I could say I respect more than Paddy Pimblett for how he fought in that fight. But yeah, as far as this, how this plays out for the division, I really don't know. I said it in my predictions. Whoever wins this fight, it's kind of sad, because both of these guys just went through an absolute war and took so much damage and probably a little bit of CTE just to get knocked out by Ilia Topuria in the first round in their next fight. That's kind of how I see it. I don't think Justin Gaethje can do that kind of fight with Ilia Topuria. He's going to go down. He's going to get hit with punches a lot harder than what he got hit with against Paddy. And Ilia Topuria is a much slicker boxer than both of these guys. He's got a higher IQ when it comes to the boxing. I think he's one of the smartest boxers I've ever seen in the sport, and he will find his shots, and he's going to knock out either one of these guys, whoever gets him next. I'm sure it's going to be Justin Gaethje now, obviously, because he won the fight and he has the interim belt, but I don't know. I don't see that fight being that competitive. I feel like the most competitive fight right now to make at lightweight for the belt would be Arman Tsarukyan versus Ilia Topuria. That's, again, that was on my fight wish list for 2026. It's one of my most coveted fights of the year. I think it's a very well even match. I feel like the wrestling is basically even. If not, I would give Arman Tsarukyan an advantage there. I think he has the advantage in the jiu-jitsu possibly as well, but again, it's almost dead even. I feel like the striking is almost dead even because Arman Tsarukyan's more of a crafty striker. He has axe kicks. He throws more wild kicks. He throws kicks that I've never seen Ilia throw. But then on the other hand, Ilia's boxing is so elite and the power that he has is so substantial that it kind of equals out. So I feel like that's the closest fight you can make. A 37-year-old Justin Gaethje who's been through as many wars as he has, especially coming out of this one. I just feel like he's going to get starched in the first round if he fights Ilia Topuria. Paddy Pimblett, in my eyes, would probably have a better chance of standing with Ilia, especially after seeing how well his chin holds up. So, yeah, we'll see what happens in 2026. The lightweight division's in a little bit of a weird place right now. I hope it gets kind of solved and figured out towards the end of the year, but just a fantastic fight. One of my favorite fights of all time. I was on my feet, shouting and screaming and clenching my fists. And I was so nervous watching that fight because it just felt like at any moment one of these guys could just get knocked into orbit. Even though Paddy Pimblett was taking those punches, taking those knockdowns and getting right back up. And Justin Gaethje didn't seem like he was getting hit by much. But, you know, Paddy Pimblett landed some shots on him where you're like, ooh, if he lands a couple more of those, Justin might be the one going down. And maybe he'll find a late KO like Max Holloway did against him. I don't know. But it played out for Justin Gaethje. He got his win. This is the biggest win of his career, in my opinion, because the next fight is his most important fight in his whole career. It's kind of his last fight. So if he can cap it off with a title win, that'll be huge for him. I love the guy. He's been so entertaining throughout all the years, possibly the most entertaining fighter in UFC history. It'd be really cool to see him go out with a belt, but if I'm using my brain, I do not see it happening. That's a huge mountain to overcome. I feel like that's a much tougher fight than even the Khabib fight. I remember when Justin Gaethje fought Khabib, and I was like, man, Khabib's my favorite fighter, so I want him to win, and I see him dominating in this fight. I see it being completely one-sided, but there's another part of me that still really loves Justin Gaethje. He's one of my favorites, and I don't love him as much as Khabib, but I feel like if he went in here and got a win, it would be huge for him. And I thought maybe he had a chance in that Khabib fight, but Khabib went in there and just dominated him, smothered him. It wasn't even a close fight at all. But I feel like the Ilia Topuria fight, even though Ilia is much smaller than Khabib, I feel like he's a way bigger threat. I think he's a lot more dangerous. You watch what he did against Charles Oliveira. That fight wasn't even remotely close. The Max Holloway fight wasn't really that close. You can say the first 2 rounds were close, but really, he was just getting stalked. And then the Volkanovski fight wasn't close at all either. So this guy's making legends, some of the greatest fighters of all time, look like amateurs, people who have never fought before. He's making these fights look not even remotely close. So until we see Ilia Topuria get into a war like we saw Justin Gaethje get into last Saturday against Paddy Pimblett, I'm siding with that guy for first-round knockout against anybody he fights until he moves up to welterweight. So yeah, we'll see what happens in the division. But you guys let me know. Play matchmaker down below in the comments. Who do you guys want to see fight for the lightweight title next? Do you think Justin Gaethje gets it now because he won that interim belt, or would you like to see maybe somebody else fight for it? You guys let me know down below. Let me know what you want to see happen in the bantamweight division. This was a big fight for 130, or it was a big fight card for 135 because we got to see Sean O'Malley get back in the win column, overcome Song Yadong. He might be up for the belt next, or maybe it's Umar beating Davidson Figueiredo in such dominant fashion. You guys let me know down below in the comments who you guys want to see fight for the belt next. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with all your friends to help boost this channel and the algorithm. Thank you guys so much for watching. It means the absolute world to me. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.